Happy Friday, everybody. And Ruth, last night you happened to be covering a game which had significant impact on the college football landscape. You saw University of South Florida and Alex Golish and Mr. Orlando. Basically, you one heck of a job on a Boise State team that looked clueless for most of the game.
I think it's safe to say that they came unprepared, is what we saw offensively and defensively. They didn't have answers for either side of the ball, but I believe it was probably one of the most monumental wins in Alex Golish's career as the
Mm-hmm.
USF coach. It was just outstanding. The first quarter seemed a little rough, and Alex Bolish after the game spoke on him taking responsibility of wanting to do too many things to kind of
Mm-hmm.
see what was working, to see what was clicking. He was trying to get a little bit too methodical with the offense, trying to get a little too fancy with it.
Right.
But Byron Brown quickly, the starting quarterback quickly pulled him to the side and said, "Hey, coach, let me run the ball a little bit." And I
Mm-hmm.
feel like once Byron started running the ball, putting his shoulder down, I mean, he ran for 43 yards with 8 attempts and two rushing touchdowns. He really
Mm-hmm.
kind of ignited that offense and gave him that confidence boost that, hey, this is our home field and we're going to play as this is our territory. So
Mm-hmm.
definitely saw some great things out of the offense, and it was exciting to have Byron back after 11 months of being
Mm-hmm.
injured. He's finally back to command that offense, but I feel like we got to give a little bit of a tip to the defense. The defense side of the
Oh,
ball was
100%.
outstanding. Yeah, they were completely suffocating the Boise State offense, and they didn't really have an opportunity to turn left or right because there was a defensive lineman or somebody coming off the corner. One of the edge rushers were always
Mhm.
there to kind of silence silence the run game. And I got to tip off my hat to Maddox Madsen, who was the starting quarterback for Boise State. He tried his hardest out there. You could tell that he left
Yeah.
everything out on the field, blood, sweat, and tears. So he tried, but the defense just was too impactful. As Mac Harris spoke about in the post game
Mhm.
conference, he said, "We just try to be violent. We try to be violent towards the ball, and that's exactly what we did tonight. And that's the recipe that they're going to need carrying forward in these next 2 weeks. Because as you know,
100
they have
yeah.
the schedule only gets tougher in the coming weeks."
Right. You got Miami next, and then Florida after that, and then the conference. So it's a bit of a bizarre. It's like somebody scheduled put that schedule together was ruthless. It's like, okay, you want to get good?
Yeah.
Here's your three chances. Um, I will say this: Todd Orlando, the defensive coordinator at USF,
Mm.
did an outstanding job in the portal. If you looked up and saw the players, every time they were calling a play, this guy was at Texas A&M last year. This guy was at Alabama last year. This guy was at Tennessee last year. This guy was, and all the the prime uh, teams that you're so used to seeing in the top 10. There was one or two players off that defense that one play that wasn't. Last year was on these blue blood teams, and they spent a lot of time going over the defense because they were terrible in defense last year. So I think that was your
Mm.
point on that is 100%. They did everything right, and one of these times, and of course we got to see the trick play, which Golish isn't a big trick play kind of guy, but I don't understand how you cannot, if you're a Boise State coach, right? You see the you see the guy is the punter, is the backup quarterback. You don't. That's not telling you something. He wasn't a punter,
Yeah.
so and
Yeah.
he threw a wonderful pass down there, and bingo, they scored a touchdown. And
Yeah.
the rest is
So
history.
if I could comment on that real quick,
Sure.
Jim, I don't mean to interrupt you, but
No, go ahead.
Creamer, the special teams coordinator, spoke
Hmm.
on how when they had Lachlan Hewlett as their third string quarterback,
Right.
they said, you know what, this trick play could possibly work because he looks like a punter. He's an average, not very tall, white guy. We could actually use him almost like a decoy for that trick play. And
Right.
I feel like that's exactly what happened. They thought that he was a punter, and I think it was really crucial for them to do that early in the game, because it was going to later on in the game, it would have gave Boise State more an understanding of who was their punters, kind of from the bunch. So I think that was a good call to do that early. But man, was that an impressive throw. I believe it was for 46 yards.
Yeah.
And to make that connection was absolutely outstanding. And it was funny because Byron and Lachlan had a bet going on in the quarterback room, who was going to throw the first touchdown of the season. And touchdown pass of the season. And unfortunately, Byron missed out on that chance.
Well, Jerry's with us. Jerry, how you doing, buddy? We are we're very good, Ruth and I, today after a fun and very interesting evening last night.
Yes.
We are indeed ready for the football season, and I hope you are as well. As a matter of fact, Jerry, tell you what we're going to do. Just because you said, are we ready for the season? We're going to start talking football. We're going to talk about tonight's games, starting off with Georgia Tech, Colorado. That's an 8 p.m. game on ESPN. We've got an ACC team in Georgia Tech going out to play a Big 12 team. This is the Coach Prime season without. This is the first time he's ever, by the way, coached without any of his kids on the team.
Wow.
So we'll see. And now I'm not going to go out on a limb and say they're going to win the title, but keep an eye on Georgia Tech. They're not a bad football team. Mm-hmm. And, in the ACC, you've got obviously Clemson, you have Florida State, we have no idea what North Carolina is going to be like. SMU is going to be good again. So I think people are kind of underlooking or overlooking, I should say, Georgia Tech. So keep an eye out for that game. Again, we have no idea what's going to happen in Colorado whatsoever. Coach Prime likes to turn his roster over, and this is no different. Of course, he had that health scare. I don't know if you remember that, Ruth.
Yeah, that was intense.
It was a bladder cancer situation, which fortunately for Coach, he got taken care of. He went through the chemo. He did everything you're supposed to do, and thank goodness everything went well. And so we wish, Coach Prime, Deion's a fantastic guy. We wish him all the best out there in Colorado, and it's going to be interesting to see when they play out there. Just what happens with this Colorado team. It's going to be a fun look to see what life after the Sanders brothers is going to be for Coach Prime, who's now coaching basically a team without any of his family on it.
Yeah. So Georgia Tech, Colorado, who are you taking?
If I had to, I would go with Colorado at home. I think it's going to be a very close game, but I'm going to go with Colorado at home. They've done an outstanding job on defense. Okay, so they got better on defense. So we'll see. It's going to be a close game, but I'm going to lean Colorado for this one because they're playing a home game.
Do you think that elevation in Colorado really plays as big as a part as people say it does?
I will tell you from a personal standpoint, yes, it does.
Okay.
You noticed it.
Yeah.
You really do notice it. One of the things I think that is important to note is what happens is you're kind of like, most teams go out a day ahead of time, right? And so they'll be there last night and they'll, come out, maybe they'll do a walkthrough or something. You don't really appreciate it until you try exerting yourself, right? So if you're a bike rider or a hiker or whatever like that, it's going to get to you quicker than it is going to get to me, where I'm just hanging out at the hotel. But the players are going to feel it. It's just like I think Boise State last night. We talked about how important the fourth quarter was going to be, and by that time the game was pretty much decided. But you could see the Boise guys. They were huffing and puffing, and they were cramping up like crazy. So, the Florida humidity and heat did in Boise State. Now, whether or not Georgia Tech's going to have trouble with the altitude, I tend to believe it will be an issue. Will it be the deciding issue? I doubt that, but it's definitely going to be an issue.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I played basketball in Colorado in an outside court that I found, and I wasn't expecting to play ball that day, and I had winter boots on because we had just finished a hike. But I decided to play. I mean, they were playing pickup ball. I kind of try to play whenever I have a chance. And I will say I didn't really feel that much of a difference when it came to being able to catch my breath. And I was in high elevation. I believe I was in Colorado Springs at the time. Yeah. And I really didn't feel that much of a difference when it came to running and trying to keep my breath. So it made me think, I'm like, I really want to understand. But when it came to snowboarding a year prior, when I went to Breckenridge, Colorado, which is over 10,000 square feet above sea level, I couldn't even walk up the stairs without losing my breath. So yeah, I guess in different areas, it definitely hits you differently.
Absolutely. Jerry says that Georgia Tech by 2 touchdowns. All right. Well, Jerry, you know what? If you're a fan of Georgia Tech, buddy, take it. We wish you all the best on that one. We have another game tonight, and that's Friday night at Auburn and at Baylor. It's intriguing for a number of reasons. You've got a Big Ten team hosting an SEC team. Baylor had trouble last year. They really did. And I don't know that they got much better. Auburn had trouble last year. And here we go, folks. I don't think they got much better. So I think what we're looking at tonight, if I had to pick between the two games to watch, because they're on exactly the same time, I would definitely probably lean toward going back to Georgia Tech and Colorado than Auburn and Baylor. It's just, I think that these two teams are, they're going to try to find themselves, but right now, I don't think they have the identity. One of the things you brought up last night was about the first quarter of that game between Boise and Florida, South Florida. People forget, Ruth, and you know it because you cover these things, that college football doesn't have play. I mean, you don't have a preseason. So you're just practicing against your own team. It's a whole different thing to go out on the field. It's the first time in many cases. I mean, many of the receivers that South Florida had and running back, same thing over on the other side on Boise State. They'd never played together literally in a game where it counted. So, you are definitely going to have a learning curve. That's why most teams go out and they'll find a Savannah State or somebody like that to play, just because they want to get the reps in and not have to worry about, if we screw up and lose this game, we're doomed. So, these intersectional rivalries like Auburn taking on Baylor, they're two private schools. They're two, they've spent a lot of money in NIL. So we'll see. We definitely will see. But I do think that the Georgia Tech game against Colorado, maybe just because of the prime factor, might be more interesting than checking out Auburn and Baylor, because quite frankly, beyond maybe the 3 or 4 players on each team, I couldn't tell you who's there. But Dave Aranda, who is the head coach at Baylor, he's known for playing well in Waco and having his team prepared. Auburn, we'll see. They've been kind of up and down the past couple of years, so I wouldn't hang a lot on Auburn there. Baylor at home sounds like a good deal for me. So, that's going to be fun. Let's move on to Saturday, because there's a couple games here that you talked about yesterday.
Yes.
Let's start off with the big noon on Fox.
Ohio State,
Ohio State University at the Horseshoe. Texas with Arch Manning. I'm gonna call out us, the media. Okay. Not you and I, but us, the media. Arch Manning hasn't done. He's played a couple of games. Remember, he was in for Clint Hewers, the quarterback last year, when Clint got hurt, and he played well. Okay. I mean, there's people right now that have him, give him the Heisman before he ever stepped foot on the field. The pressure that's on this kid has to be enormous. And playing at Ohio State on the road, you're number 1 ranked in the country. we don't know. I mean, the preseason polls are jokes entirely. You're just basing on somebody else's, you know, recollection of what you might be able to do. So I think Texas going into the horseshoe and playing Ohio State in front of excess of 102,000 people. Not that that's going to be intimidating. Texas plays in front of 100,000 people all the time. But I think what they're probably going to do, and Steve Sarkisian, the coach of Texas, is good at this. He's for many years he was one of the top quarterback coaches and offensive coordinators. I think Sarkisian will set this up for Manning not to fail, I guess is the best way to put it. In other words, give him a playbook that he feels comfortable with against an Ohio State team, which offensively, they're not what they were last year, but defensively, they are. And so we'll see how that plays out. But Texas, Ohio State, big noon tomorrow. Going to be a real amazing game. Your thoughts on the game?
So do you have, would it be easy to say that you have Texas upsetting Ohio State on the road in the horseshoe?
I don't know that number one upset beating number three is as much as an upset.
Yeah.
But that being said, I can see Texas beating Ohio State in large part, not as much because these two teams are probably going to see each other again. They've already seen each other in the playoffs last year. They're probably going to see each other again in the playoffs. But I think I do think Texas has the better and more veteran team. So I think that bodes well for them. Ohio State's going to start yet another quarterback. They've got a little. They don't know who's in the who the top runners are in the running back room. So there's a lot of it's great to be at home, no question about that. Great to be in front of 100,000 of your fans. That's also good too. But Texas is not, Texas doesn't wilt in situations like this because I said before, they play in front of 100,000 people more often than not. So I think, if I were to go out on the limb and say pick Texas here, it wouldn't necessarily be people say to me, "Oh, boy, Jim, you really went out on the ledge to pick that one out." So I do think Texas can get by Ohio State as long as they don't shoot themselves in the foot. So let's see how that goes for Texas. But Texas, Ohio State, good game to kick things off on Fox at noon tomorrow. So, by the way, before we go there to the next game, which is one I'm gonna put it up because I know you're gonna be excited. Alabama, Florida State. Tomorrow's game day, and it will be Lee Corso's last game day. Lee is 90 years old. I've had the honor and pleasure of working with Lee a number of times as a color analyst for us on Big Ten football. Lee has got an incredible sense of humor. He has no trouble laughing at himself. I will tell you one quick Lee Corso story, which has nothing to do with him as a broadcaster. It has people forget Lee was actually a coach before. He coached Indiana. We're talking about the horseshoe, right? Indiana took the opening kickoff of the game that they were playing at Ohio State back for a touchdown. Lee got an unsportsmanlike conduct penalty for actually having a number of the team step out on the field with him so that the photographer could take a picture of the scoreboard saying Indiana 7, Ohio State nothing. Sense of humor, but Woody Hayes' Ohio State team beat him 42-7. So
wow,
that 7 points he got on the board was a fun thing, but it comes back to haunt you. But great sense of humor, incredibly gracious man, and he will be missed. He's kind of like the Dick Vitale of football, and he doesn't mind, obviously, with putting those different mascots' heads on to decide who's the winner.
So funny. I love it every time he does that.
He's just a sweet man.
Yeah.
And he's been a tremendous ambassador for college football, and we just wish Lee and his lovely family all the best as they live in in Orlando and have a great life from there
Oh,
on.
does he live in Orlando?
Yeah,
Oh, wow. Okay.
has for many years.
Wow. Wow.
There's a ironically there's a pencil factory in Orlando that Lee has for many years been an executive at, and so his that's I know we don't a lot of us don't use number two pencils as much as we used to, but Corso brought it on. So thanks to Lee, and the game day crew will be on hand tomorrow. So I'm sure everybody will tune in, take a gander at the last. Well, it's gonna be emotional, I'm sure, for many,
Yeah.
because he's been there longer than any of the other guys, and they all kind of grew up on him.
Why do you think
With him.
why do you think he's choosing the first broadcast to be his last instead of like
He
the
didn't
last
want
broadcast?
to. I mean, he wanted to end it last season,
Got it.
but he also didn't want one of these, tours of where everybody, gives you something or feels as if they're entitled to, they want to. He didn't want kind of like the victory lap, right? The where this is the last episode. So he was talked into doing the first show of this year because they said, "Look, we got to honor you somehow, and you're not going to let us honor you the way we thought we should or could." So he agreed to coming on game day for game one, and that then he would step off the stage. So Lee is actually, despite the fact that he's pretty incredibly outgoing, a tremendous analyst and a fun guy to be around. He's very much of an introvert. He's not somebody who seeks the spotlight. And as watching, as I was saying this, and I know that people are running through their heads going, the guy has no trouble making a fool of himself on television, which is true. But he's not somebody who's an overwhelmingly outgoing guy. So I think that he just didn't want people to pay that much attention to him. He always has been, as I said, an ambassador to college football. So more often than not, he would prefer you pay attention to college football, not to Lee Corso.
That makes sense. That makes
Yeah.
sense. Honorable
Now,
there.
this is the family thing for you.
Yes, it is.
Number 8, Alabama, who those of us who have grown up around the SEC have either love or hate Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not going to say, my mother used to say, if you can't say something nice about someone, don't say it at all. But Caleb DeBoer, we talked about this yesterday. Caleb DeBoer, who's the new coach at Alabama, has been terrible on the road. Florida State's opening their new, renovated, incredibly cool Doak Campbell Stadium. And we got two coaches, Mike Norvell and, in Alabama, Caleb DeBoer, who people will say, okay, prove it. Show us you're worthy of this. We know Florida State had a bad year last year. We're thinking, okay, well, maybe that was just an anomaly. Alabama had a bad Alabama year last year. So we'll see who shows up. We'll see what's going on. And around your home, I assume the Seminoles will be well represented.
As they will, yeah. My nieces are going to be in their little Florida State cheerleading outfits, and they're going to be all decked out because my sister likes to go all out. But this is an exciting matchup. Though it is a non-conference game, it is a super high-profile game. And with Alabama going 9-4 in Kalen DeBoer's first season as the head coach, there is a lot of eyes on Alabama to see if they're going to make that jump to the elite level that they were once at, which I feel like they're still an elite organization.
Yeah.
I mean, Alabama has been pushing out NFL pro players for decades now. So I don't think that's going to really change up. Just, I mean, obviously it's a major coaching change with Nick Saban stepping down, but I still feel like that culture and camaraderie in that locker room is still there.
Sure.
But it's an exciting matchup for Florida State, who has a lot to prove, who had a very lackluster season last year. It's been 272 days since they've stepped foot on their stadium to play a game, and I think Alabama is just a great matchup for the two. Norvell has a lot to prove. The quarterback who's returning has a lot to prove. That defense has a lot to prove since they were just ran through in an embarrassing fashion last season. So
Right.
there's a lot on the line. And as you mentioned yesterday, I feel as if Norvell has an below 500 season as he did last season, his job could be on the chopping block.
Right.
But if Alabama goes 9-4 again, or if they have a similar number,
Right.
will DeBoer be on the chopping block? So yeah, a lot of question marks.
Yeah, they'll be chasing him around Tuscaloosa. But and this goes back to Florida State, back to the Bowden days. One of the things Bobby Bowden did and said about let's things moving, right, was he played everybody. He played Nebraska. He played, when they were a nationally ranked team. He shied away from playing no one. And I think that, if Florida State's we talked yesterday about USF and their statement game against Boise. This could be Mark Norvell's statement game. He's taken on an Alabama team that, is ranked number 8. We don't know if they're that good or not yet. But if you're Florida State, you can't afford to go on national television in your brand new, home stadium, renovated. It's a gorgeous place. I'm sure they'll show a lot of it. You can go on YouTube and find all kinds of cool videos about it. But yeah, Alabama, Florida State. This is, it's hard to say the first game of the season is a must-win game. But I think for Florida State, if they're going to get off to a good start, and I think many Seminole fans out there wouldn't disagree with me, that beating Alabama would be a good way to start it.
Yeah. And we're talking about having 10 new starters on offense for Florida State and 7 new players for defense on Florida State. You got a new offensive and defensive coordinator.
Right.
49 new players on this roster. So this is not only a renovated stadium, but also a renovated team and coaching staff. So a lot of nuances to kind of hold on to in this matchup. But I think Florida State has a lot to prove. They had a pretty upset fan base last season, and they're just looking forward to kind of punching their way back into competitiveness by taking on Alabama in the first game.
Yeah, 100%. We'll see how that plays out.
Yeah.
All right. Nevada at Penn State. I put this up here. Not as much about Nevada as it is about Penn State. And I don't know that James Franklin has ever had a better team on paper than he has this season at Penn State. So coming to State College, again, we're talking over 100,000 people. Nevada's coming for the paycheck. Penn State needs to prove to them that, and the country, that they are worthy of that number 2 ranking. And, you got Ohio State right behind you at number 3. So there's the Big Ten is well represented. Nevada, a quality group of 5 team, but going to Penn State under normal circumstances, winning is almost impossible. And I honestly don't see how they're going to do it this time. I think the question is not, can Penn State beat Nevada? That Penn State will beat Nevada. What I think the question is will Penn State live up to the expectations? And James Franklin's a heck of a recruiter. He's a wonderful coach. He's a nice man. Just a great leader, but just has not been able to get past Ohio State or Michigan. So we have to take a look, but I think all indications are that Penn State will have a banner year. And if they can't break through this year, they may not be able to break through for a long time. And that's the 3:30 game over on CBS. So Penn State, historically they've been an outstanding football team, and we'll see how they do in State College. So that's tomorrow at that wonderful 3:30 time on CBS. But prime time. This one, LSU at Clemson. So you got 2 teams that are called the Tigers. You got 2 teams that play in stadiums that are called Death Valley. And having been to both of them, I'm going to say LSU is far more intimidating to play at night than Clemson is. you probably got two of the best quarterbacks in the country facing off in this LSU Clemson game. So this should be fun. Dabo Sweeney needs to prove. He doesn't need to prove it to me, but he does need to prove it to a lot of people that Clemson's still relevant. They got off to a rocky start last year, but they came back and ended up playing in the ACC championship game. LSU under Brian Kelly has not quite been the LSU that they had hoped. So this is again, it's not you want to say that this is a must-win situation for either of these teams, but I think either one of these teams, LSU and Clemson, of all the teams we've seen right here, maybe Texas or Ohio State, I think these are probably two very close to the same caliber of talent that both of them have, and they both brought back a number of players. So we'll see, but I think LSU and Clemson should be a fun game tomorrow. Tomorrow at 7:30 on ABC.
Yeah, I have the Clemson Tigers beating the LSU Tigers in tomorrow's matchup. But that is the game I'm looking forward to the most, LSU and Clemson, because these are both teams, both universities that have been dominant for decades now and have also been a great NFL player portal for these teams as well. So I'm excited to see how they bounce back this
year. It's like a triple A, baseball team for the NFL.
Yeah.
And the thing with, I thought you were going to say, you could have done this. You could have said, you know what? I'm picking the Tigers tomorrow night. You've been safe.
Yeah, exactly. Tigers for the win. Tigers for the win.
Put it down. All right. Okay. Now we're at that time of the year where we actually even get some late night football. So these aren't specifically amazing games, but you got Cal at Oregon State. Oregon State is a terrible place to play football because they're just it takes you forever to get there, number one. And number two, their fans do not make it easy on you. California, they moved to the ACC. These are two teams that 2 years ago were in the same conference back when there was a Pac-12. So I got to believe that Oregon just wants to drub California, and California wouldn't be happy if they didn't do everything they could to drub Oregon State. So it's kind of like it's not a rivalry, never was a rivalry, but in this case, it's now kind of like, okay, you didn't want to stay around from Oregon State's side to California. You didn't want to stay around and play in the Pac-12. You had to go over to the ACC. Let's talk. And so it's going to be one of those potential. If you're going to, if you want to stay and watch football to 11:30 on ESPN, the Cal Oregon State game could be interesting.
Yeah, I mean a 10:30 kickoff. That'll probably be a late night game, closer to like 12:30, 1 o'clock before that wraps up.
You say that, but got a later one for you.
Oh goodness, 11 o'clock.
11 o'clock on Fox. This one.
You're not going to watch unless you're on the West Coast, basically.
Well, Utah. We got a lot of fans out in Utah. Okay, so shout out to the Utes. They show up. Big 12 Mafia. Those guys over there. We'll be having some of those guys on during the course of the year. Utah is definitely they really had a bad year last year. And no one could really figure out why, because, they just normally they don't have an off year. They had one last year. So they're in the Big 12. Big 12 has a very wide open conference as to who might win this one. Utah should be back and should be able to contend for the Big 12 conference title. UCLA, kind of sneaky. They're in the Big 10. The game's going to be played. We talked about the Rose Bowl yesterday, which was our background. This game will be at the Rose Bowl at 11 o'clock on Fox. So it'll be fun. We'll see if Utah bounces back. But don't sleep on UCLA. I don't think they're not going to beat Penn State or Ohio State or Michigan to win the championship. But that being said, I wouldn't be surprised to see a UCLA team that causes a little bit of havoc in the Big Ten. Yeah, they've got some good good parts on that team, and something to definitely pay attention to. So Utah at UCLA tomorrow night at the Rose Bowl. So there you go. That's your college football. However, Ruth, you before the show in our little show meeting said,
Mhm.
Jim, we got to do this. We got to talk about this trade.
Yes, we
So
do.
I'm
Because
teeing you up.
everybody's talking about it.
I'm teeing you up. Here you go.
All right. So news broke yesterday afternoon, late after, well, I would say like around 3, 4 o'clock, that Micah Parsons has been traded to the Green Bay Packers officially. So Cowboys Nation, if you're in the comments, if you're in the viewer, please give us a comment. Let us know how you're doing today, how we're feeling about the trade. Because as a Cowboys fan, as you could see with the star just on my chair, born and raised a Cowboys fan, I was not expecting for this to happen. I thought that Jerry Jones and Micah's agent was going to come to a deal. From what I read up on this morning, there was still the agent for Micah Parsons still approached Jerry Jones early yesterday and was like, "Hey, we could still get a deal done. Micah still wants to be a Dallas Cowboy." Jerry Jones told him he's under contract. We have a game Thursday against Philadelphia. Tell him to be ready to play. And because they did not get that extended contract, because they did not have the numbers met, the trade was pushed through for Micah to go to the Green Bay Packers, and we received a defensive tackle in Kenny Clark and 2 first-round draft picks. Now, in my perspective, I don't think the draft picks are really for them to draft in the future in 26 and 27. I feel like those first-round draft picks are for Jerry Jones to use as trading tools to get players that are going to help the Dallas Cowboys today. Now, there was a lot of back and forth with what Jerry. There was a lot of things that just didn't make sense that Jerry was saying, like, as in, oh, we need to stop the run, but then you go and trade Micah Parsons. Oh, we need to be able to eliminate problems on the defense, but then you go and trade your star player on the defense. So a lot of questionable things that Jerry has stated, and then his actions just kind of don't match the words that he's said. And being a longtime Dallas Cowboys fan, I'm coming to the realization that maybe this organization is not really going to be able to push through this curse that they've been under for the last 2.5 decades until Jerry Jones steps down. Because there seems to be a little bit of an ego battle when it comes to Jerry Jones. It doesn't seem like he wants any of the Dallas Cowboys players, anybody in that locker room, to be bigger than him. And because of that, there's been a lot of back and forth and turmoil with a big personality like Micah Parsons. One thing I will comment, though, is Jane Slater, who covers the Dallas Cowboys, was on the Pat McAfee show just 2 days ago, and she spoke about how Micah Parsons has been a bit of a nuisance. She used the word nuisance to describe his locker room etiquette, and that is something that's been kind of whispers around the organization on, are we really going to pay Micah Parsons the type of money he wants on a long-term deal when there is some underlying issues that really could come up in the future? So I always thought it was weird how Micah Parsons had a podcast that he would even go live from during the season. It was kind of giving a little like Draymond Green kind of energy from the NBA. And that is something that is questionable, and the way that he always wants to be heard and kind of have all attention on him. When I mean, there's a defensive playbook that needs to be studied. There needs to be other things other than you trying to promote your podcast and be. But I mean, at the end of the day, Micah Parsons was one of a kind player, Pro Bowler, only 26 years old. Best years still in front of him, I believe. So it does hurt to see that he's now in the green and yellow that we're going to be playing in week 4. The Dallas Cowboys are going to be facing the Green Bay Packers in week 4. So that is kind of a little head scratcher because, I mean, as you know, the Packers defeated the Dallas Cowboys in the playoffs 900-7. So yeah, it's just the Packers have always been a kind of a thorn in the side of that organization. And you trade one of your best defensive players to that organization is kind of like, what is happening?
Well, let's go a little bit to looking about bizarrities, as you just said, things that don't make sense, things that make you scratch your head. Cleveland signed Myles Garrett to a long-term contract, which for a lot of money.
Mm.
Okay, Miles was, Micah Parsoning it around, going, woe is me, I'm not being paid. Please pay me. Please pay me. Okay, so a team with a bankroll nowhere near the bankroll that the Dallas Cowboys, had paid Myles Garrett. Why? Because he was the best player on the football team. This past season, we saw, TJ Watt in Pittsburgh get a strong contract. Definitely a strong contract for the Rooneys. They don't give out those kind of contracts, but they did in his particular case. Fast forward to Micah and Jerry Jones. They can't get a deal done. Is it Micah's ego? Is it Jerry's ego? Is it a combination of two egos?
Yeah.
And I think that's where the thing, the rub is.
The battle of the egos.
Right. And there can only be one. And if we're going as a Cowboy fan, and I've got a number of friends who are, and peel back what happened, right? They haven't been to a Super Bowl since Jimmy Johnson, got yelled at by and upset with Jerry Jones in the 90s. He fired him. Then they brought Barry Switzer in for that 1 year, who took Jimmy could have had 3 Super Bowls in a row, because Barry even says it was Jimmy's team. Okay.
Yeah.
They haven't been in a Super Bowl since the 90s. Now, they make the playoffs consistently. They made them through Tony Romo's time. They made them so far through Dak's time. But, I don't, if there is a magical, mystical situation here going, whether it's karma or what, but I don't understand why Jimmy and what, in essence, the Dallas Cowboys are the most valuable franchise potentially in U.S. sports. If they were to be sold on the open market, which they're not going to be anytime soon, I don't understand why you can't give the money to the guy, unless, as you said, he's seen by some people as trouble in the locker room. Otherwise, I can't imagine why you wouldn't do it.
Right. If you have $20 million in the bank for salary cap, and you could issue out that money, it would probably want to go to a player that's already been with the organization. But there has to be underlying issues that we just aren't aware of. There has to be storylines behind the Micah Parsons deal that has not been released to the media. So as much as everybody's freaking out and completely panicking, which is kind of understandable when you give away one of your best players at only 26 years old, I have faith that this will turn out to be for good, and in the long run, it will be a positive, and we're going to move on from this. Midway through the season, we won't even be talking about it.
Okay, well, Jerry comes back and says he's been a Cowboy fan since 1966. God love you, Jerry. Watched the games with your father. Heard Jerry Jones, when he bought the team, would end up driving it into the ground. The prophecy has come to pass. Jerry, it's hard to argue with your point there, my friend. This is a guy that fired the man who stood on the Cowboys sideline wearing a hat all the time. Tom Landry got fired by Jerry Jones, and he's had a string of coaches that are bizarre from a standpoint of after Jimmy and that whole thing. It's been Jerry's guy. Jerry's been the general manager and owner. I don't know that there's been many of those since the days of George Halas. So I don't know. He is control freak, and so he's happy to have it, but I'm not sure that's where we're going to go here. We got a few other quick questions here on Friday before we get out of here. Okay, what does Bobby want to know? Bobby wants to know this. Bobby wants to know, Miss Ruth, next week is opening week, for the NFL. Something we will definitely get to next week. He wants to know, if you had to pick one game other than a Cowboy game, that was cute that he put it in parentheses, other than a Cowboy game. Other than a Cowboy game, what would be the game you'd want to see?
All right. Chiefs, Chargers. Let's see. Cowboys, Eagles on Thursday. Chiefs, Chargers on a Friday. Steelers, Jets. Um, Honestly, I'm really excited to see Aaron Rodgers suit up as a Steeler.
Okay.
I'm excited to see what that's going to look like. I obviously want to see Jaden Daniels as well
Mm-hmm.
for the Washington Commanders.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, there's so many good matchups in week 1.
I
Green
told
Bay
you
Packers,
he didn't make
Detroit
it easy on you.
Lions.
Yeah.
Yeah, Detroit Lions and Packers. That will be a great game to watch as well. Bills and Ravens in week 1.
Mm-hmm.
Goodness gracious, a lot of great matchups. But I've been an Aaron Rodgers fan for quite some time. So I'm excited to see him suit up in week 1 for the 1:00 game on Sunday against the New York Jets.
Just a little fun aside to that one. Aaron Rodgers was the quarterback of the Jets last year.
Mm-hmm.
The quarterback for the Jets, Russell Wilson, you know, it's going to be an interesting situation to see the guy who ran the Steeler offense run the run the Jets offense, and the guy who ran the Jets offense running the Steelers offense. So that one definitely, if nothing else, it's an ironically fun game to watch. Micah Parsons gone as they play Philadelphia. That will be an interesting situation to see. Philly coming off that Super Bowl win, and seeing how that's going. So yeah, and I think Jaden Daniels, I think they open against the Giants, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
So it'll be interesting to see that one too, because there's always, we see what, I don't know if Bo Nick's out in Denver or who it's going to be, but there's always kind of a one or two of these quarterbacks take a step back. They call it the sophomore jinx. And we don't know who that's going to be. I personally don't think it's going to be Jaden Daniels. I think the signing of Terry McLaurin was a very important reason that will help, no question about it. But I think that Washington is trending as a challenger to Philadelphia in the East, and I think it's going to be good for them. That'll be fun. The Ravens Bills. That's those are the two teams that have to wonder: are we ever going to get past the Kansas City Chiefs? Because on paper, you look at it, Ravens are fantastic, the Bills are good. How can they not get past it? But they can't. And so we talked about this in college with James Franklin, Ohio State, Michigan, right? There's just sometimes and some teams you can't play. And it'll be interesting for sure to see how that plays out. But it's going to be the show is called Everything Football. And we look at college and we look at pros. And I can honestly say I'm excited for this season because of so many opportunities in college for teams we have no idea how good they are to somebody come in and establish themselves as a potential champion. Who's going to be the outlier who that we didn't pick at the beginning of the season, and all of a sudden they show up. And then it's going to be an outstanding NFL season as well. I mean, there's so many questions, like you said. How's Aaron Rodgers going to play in Pittsburgh? We'll see. We definitely will see. He's with the right temperament in Mike Tomlin, who hasn't had a losing season in his 21 seasons as a head coach of a football team.
Wow.
Pretty amazing. And by the way, that he's only the third coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers since 1969.
Wow. Consistency.
If you're going to talk consistency, that's consistency.
Yeah.
All right.
I wanted to ask you one question before we got out of here. Pete Carroll as the new head coach for the Las Vegas Raiders.
Yeah.
I know that I heard chatter about it, but it really didn't hit me until yesterday. Pete Carroll is no longer with the Seattle Seahawks, and he's now coaching the Las Vegas Raiders. Jim, I know that you probably have an opinion on this. Like, how did he not end his career in Seattle?
I don't know how he didn't just end his career before he left Seattle. He's had some tough times. Some people, I'll go back. I'm gonna quote somebody. This is not me name dropping. I just happened to be in a position where I could ask him. I asked Charles Barkley once, when did you know when it was time to retire? And he said 2 years too late. And I think some of these coaches, when Saban walked away from Alabama, he did so understanding that, you know what, the game has changed. I do not want to recruit kids, have to re-recruit them. In other words, he gets them to Alabama and then try to keep them from jumping in the portal. So he understood that. He understand that that there's money that's now going to be. You basically have a salary cap of $20.1 million in college, and NIL you can make as much money as you want. So college football is not the same as it was and never will be. It's now professional in every sense of the word, other than actually calling it professional. So I think that the thing for Pete, uh, I'm surprised that he took the job. I'm surprised that the Raiders invited him to take the job. It's not meant to in any shade on Pete, who's a tremendous coach and a wonderful man, but I'm just saying I'm surprised that they did it, because the trend now, as we look, are guys in their 30s, right?
Yeah, younger coaches.
You got Kyle out in San Francisco. Shanahan's a good guy. You got down in Los Angeles. You got Sean. You
Dave
got guys.
Canales with the
Dave
Carolinas.
Canales. And then the offensive guy from last year that's now in Jacksonville for the Bucs. The quarterback coach from last year. I forget. Anyway.
Ian.
Yeah. Right.
Ian Poland,
I
yeah.
hear you talking about. So yeah, I mean, there's it was an interesting hire. It was what might be considered a safe hire, right? I mean, you know what you're getting when you get Pete. But I just, it is interesting. It's going to be interesting to see how, because it's not like he's taken over the reins of a team that is ready to go to the playoffs, because the Raiders aren't. And so
I feel like they are in a process of rebuild and have been since the exit of Dave Carr.
Yeah. I just don't see where. I mean, that division is stacked to begin with, and I just don't see where coaching Vegas is makes any sense at this point in time. But it was the job that was offered him, and he took it. I'm just as surprised about Belichick in North Carolina. It's like, geez, it's like, really? By the way, that's a Monday night game. That's why we didn't talk about Belichick. Belichick opens against TCU at home on Monday. Good luck. We have no idea what it's going to look like, but it'll be interesting for sure.
To say the least, yeah.
Anyway, well, any final words before we wish everyone a happy holiday weekend?
Yes. Have a great holiday weekend, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. A lot of great games that are on the slate for these upcoming days, so it will make the holidays even more special. And yeah, go Bulls. Super excited for what's next for this team and what the rest of their season is going to look like.
98 college football games from Thursday night to Monday night, ladies and gentlemen. So if you can't find football, you
just start looking.
You just are not looking. Considering the 98 games, you may have to walk out and see one being played in your front yard. So by all means, if we can't fulfill your wait for football with 98 games, there's nothing we can do to help.
98 games or 98 teams?
98 games.
98 teams. Okay, yeah. 98 games. Got it.
So that's a lot of football. A lot of football teams. So anyway, as we said before, if you have any trouble, check it out. By the way, real quick final note, and that is 506 Sports. Something you want to jot down is 506sports.com. They have every football game on every network, when it's being played, who the announcers are. And so if you're wondering, okay, wait a minute, Williams, you just said I got 98 games. Where the hell am I going to find them? Go to 506 Sports. They give you a couple of weeks in advance if they can. They do an outstanding job of deciding, where the games are being played, what network they're being played on, who the broadcasters are. So you definitely will have an opportunity to see that. And by all means, good friends out there, check it out, 506sports.com.
Is that like
Uh,
a live streaming platform where you
no,
can?
no, it's what they do at 506 is they in very easy to read text. They just basically give the list of every game starting at noon and going all the way through the
Okay.
Hawaii games, which don't start until usually 11:30. So there's that, and then they also break it down on the NFL side. They actually give you the map, so you see if if you're wanting to see a specific game, where it's going to be shown. The announcers are going to be assigned to it, and they usually work about 2 weeks in the advance. They've already got the NFL's thing up, I think. Let me pull it up real quick. Um, they already have the NFL for the first week. They also have Major League Baseball for those of you who can't seem to find the national game on the weekends. Yeah, week one, they already have it up, and they have CBS and Monday Night Football. Sunday Night Football is Baltimore Buffalo the first week, and Minnesota Chicago is Monday Night Football for that. So they got week one and week two already set to go. So they got yeah. So you're good to go there, and they even give you the broadcasters. They give you where it's going to be. For instance, you're talking about wanting to see um, Aaron Rodgers play. That game's going to be Ian Eagle and J.J. Watt, TJ's brother. Miami and Indianapolis, Andrew Catalone and Charles Davis. Vegas at New England, Spiro Ditas and Adam Archuleta. Arizona at New Orleans, that's Tom McCarthy, I'm sorry. Russ Tucker and Logan Ryan. The game of the day on Sunday, a week from this week, Detroit, Green Bay, that's Nance and Romo. Houston at the Rams, that's Harlan and Trent Green. Fox has a single game. These are the single games in the for them. Burkhart and Brady are actually going to be in Washington for the Giants Commanders game. Tampa Bay at Atlanta. Kenny Albert, our buddy, and Jonathan Vilma will be behind the mic on that one. Cincinnati, Cleveland, Kevin Kugler, Daryl Johnson. Carolina, Jacksonville, that's Chris Myers and Mark Schlereth. And then the late games, San Francisco, Seattle, that's Joe Davis and Greggy Olson. And Adam Amin and Mark Sanchez has Tennessee at Denver. That's also a late game. We'll go over all that next week, but it just goes to show you that they do have a pretty wide array of telling you what's going on and where it's going on at what time. So all good. Hope that's been a profession. Hope that's been helpful to you out there. Okay, so a lot of people wishing us a very happy and healthy holiday weekend.
Thank you.
We thank you all so very much, and we thank you for being part of our little show here. And we've done 2 whole wins right now, and now we're moving on. So, but we won't see you until Tuesday.
All right, we'll see you Tuesday.
You guys have a wonderful weekend, a great holiday. Enjoy the football because the Lord knows there's plenty of it, and hope your team wins. Okay. So until that time, everybody, have a great weekend, a safe weekend, and we will see you next week.